Imogen first. We've got this little plan. Perfect.
Thank you, Ruth. So, hi guys, thank you for coming on our little interview, cute little interview talk. This was very, very quickly organised, so thank you for hopping on and supporting us with this. I've just recently joined Arbonne. I joined about 2 weeks ago, so I'm quite new to this, hence why I wanted to do this, because I had my own questions that I wanted to ask Amy. So yeah, that's just a little bit about me, and I'll pass on to Sophie now, but yeah, like, thank you all again for coming on.
Yeah, same again. I started Arbonne when I was 18, and I didn't really take it seriously until about now that I've realised with this lockdown it's so important to have something that keeps you driven and actually like keeps you talking to people. Like with this business, we're on training calls every night, we're always talking to each other. So yeah, we were just gonna start with some questions for Ruth to basically explain any like questions that you guys have, whether you want to start or not. So the first question for you, Ruth, in fact no, I need a brief introduction of who you are and why you're here.
Here. I think I know most of you already. I definitely recognise some of your faces. I recognise Kirsty's face. I recognise a couple of names on here. For anyone I haven't met, hello, my name is Ruth. I'm Sophie's big cousin, and I'm sure I've heard lots about all of you individually. Those of you that know Imogen as well, I've been absolutely loving working with her too. It's been fab having her part of the team over the last couple of weeks. So I've been running an Arbonne business now for about 6.5 years, which is crazy. That time has absolutely flown by. I don't know if you guys can relate with like school or college or uni, but don't you just find when you look back, you're like, we were just starting like 2 seconds ago, like the time flies by. Oh, somebody else is coming on, hold on, I'll just welcome them in. Yeah, the time flies by so quickly, and at that point I was working 3 jobs. I was working in retail and hospitality after finishing a business course at Glasgow Caledonian University, and I didn't really know what I wanted to do at that point. I thought I would probably get a decent job when I came back after going to Ibiza for the summer. So if anyone can relate to that, I was like, yeah, I just want to go and have fun first of all. And in one of the jobs that I held at that point, I was working with a girl that we didn't actually know one another. Amy is the girl that introduced me to Arbonne, and we didn't really know one another. She sent me this message on Facebook, and she was like, hi, like, just wanted to introduce myself, like, we do work with one another, and I wanted to tell you about this thing that I'm doing. And I was like, well, that's lovely, that's really nice that she's thought to speak to me about it. But I didn't really know whether it was going to be for me. I think I just thought, that's nice for her, like, I'll go and listen and then be like, thanks, but no thanks. But I went along and I listened to the information that so many of you have heard already. And if you haven't heard through everything about Arbonne, please get Sophie or Imogen to talk you through it properly, because spending that half an hour listening to the girls talk to me about the entire thing, like starting it from scratch and explaining how it all works, it was like all of these little like light bulbs going off in my head. I was thinking, this is exactly what I want for my life. I just never expected it to come into a box like this. I know Sophie's going to ask me lots more questions, but just to kind of like round up on my journey, like I wasn't looking for something like this. I had a business degree, and I thought, like, I didn't think I probably would ever actually start my own business, because I didn't have, first of all, any money behind me to set something up properly. And in that business course, we weren't actually taught how to run a business. We were taught how to be part of someone else's. So when she came to me with this idea, I was like, this is genius. Like, everyone should understand this properly. I jumped in after hearing the information, and I absolutely have not looked back. But I know Sophie's got more questions for me, so I'll just pass back over, because I don't know what you're going to ask me next.
Yeah, so one of the first questions from one of my friends was, what does your average day look like in Arbonne? Like, what do you actually do every day?
What do you actually do? Okay, so when someone asks me, what do you actually do, because there's a lot of information that we spill to people, I literally just say that we look for people that would be interested in either earning an extra income or interested in looking for cleaner, safer, healthier products at a discount. So we look for people to speak to. We speak to the people that we find, and we ask them whether they're interested in business, products, or nothing at all. And that's it. We repeat. In terms of like, what does that actually look like on a day-to-day? I get up in the morning, have the first few hours of my day, just now on lockdown I'm speaking about, have the first few hours of my day just chilling, maybe watching a bit of TV with my mum, because I'm back at my mum's just now in Glasgow, and maybe around about 11 o'clock I'll have a coaching call with one of the girls in my team. So maybe somebody who started recently, I'll talk them through what their plan is, make sure that they feel comfortable, any questions that they've got. Then maybe another hour down the line I'll explain this information to someone on a one-to-one basis. So get somebody onto a call, explain all about how it works, how it operates. If they've got any questions, answer their questions. That might be somebody that I've found via social media. So a girl that I'm speaking to today, for example, We don't know each other. We have never met. Many of the people that I've met have joined my team recently. I've never ever met, but they've joined because of things that we've maybe been doing on social media and stuff. And I would share the information that way. In the afternoon, I would potter about, do other bits and pieces, and maybe in the evening I would jump on a training call, and I would encourage my team beyond there as well, so that they can get that knowledge and also grow my own knowledge and skills and belief in the company, belief in the industry, and also belief in myself, because every single time you go onto one of these training calls, you realise that there's someone exactly like you, or who has started in the exact same position as you, who has made a success of this. There's no sort of like type of person that becomes successful. It's just whether you plug into it and decide to make a success of it. So baseline, I speak to people about the product, speak to people about the business, and slot it in amongst everything else that I'm doing. When I started, like I said, I was working 3 jobs, so I maybe did a little bit on my lunch break, a couple of messages here, a couple of messages there. In the evenings on a call, much like this, speaking to maybe 3 or 4 people at the one time, explaining how it works as a business. And yeah, that was basically it, just fitting it in and amongst everything else that I was doing. I didn't have to carve out massive chunks of time. When I started, probably worked at 5-7 hours a week, and even now, even during lockdown, my busiest day would maybe look like 5 meetings or so. Maybe every now and again you would have some more, but generally would probably work 10 hours a week.
Perfect. Next question actually applies to you well, because when you started you had a few jobs on the side. What would you say to someone who said they were too busy to start an Arbonne business?
Okay. Too busy. Yeah, so that is a question that 99.99999% of people that you will speak to will say. So that's something that I also felt. I had 3 jobs. I don't have time for something else. Amy will share her story in a wee second, but she's an exceptionally busy person. And most people that make it to the top of this company were or are very, very, very busy people. So just using a couple of examples, obviously I explained that I was working 3 jobs when I started. Another couple of examples in the UK team of people that we know. There's one girl who's in her early 30s now, has 4 children, works a full-time job, and her husband works offshore in the oil rigs. So like when you think about that, you think, where on earth is she finding time to do this? Like I always think if she can do it, I can do it. There's no excuse that I don't have time to do this. I would say that it's more about prioritising time rather than not having time. Most people think that they are too busy, but when if we were to like strip down our diaries, if we were to strip down our calendars and look at our weeks, there would be a lot of time that would probably spent scrolling. There'd be a lot of time sitting in front of like Netflix or Coronation Street or whatever it is that your guilty pleasure. There would be time that if you were to show me your diary and say, I desperately want to do this, find me time, we would be able to find time in your diary to do this. If you can find a couple of 15-minute slots in and amongst everything you're doing during the day, and maybe an hour 5 times a week, you can build a successful Arbonne business.
Perfect. Next question from one of the girls on the call was, is there anything you wish you had known before starting your business?
Yeah. Yes. So I wish I'd known about it when I was 18, because when I was in my early 20s, and I was like, damn it, like you guys will get 5 years or whatever on me. That was probably the main thing that when you kind of ran these questions past me, Sophie, that I was thinking. I wish that I'd found out about it sooner, but also I think that I wish that from the very beginning, like from when I was thinking about doing it, I wish I hadn't overcomplicated it as much, because I think that I spent so much time overthinking what this could be that I probably paralysed my own growth at the start, rather than just looking at it for the simple thing that it was. And yeah, that's probably the only 2 things that I wish I'd known, because everything else you learn as you go. It's really hard to explain to someone what it feels like to drive a car. You can't teach someone to drive a car by just telling them how to drive a car. They have to get in and actually learn it. It's like doing anything practical. As soon as you start to do it, you're like, that makes sense, that makes sense, that makes sense. There's nothing that I've learned along the way that would really have been of use to me to know before I started, other than if I'd known about it earlier. That's kind of it.
Perfect. Last question. What would you say to someone who says that they're not confident or knowledgeable enough to start the business?
Yeah, okay, cool. So the knowledgeable part is completely irrelevant, because you will know nothing, just like me, Amy, Sophie, Imogen, all of us knew nothing about how to start an Arbonne business. Like, I literally was like that to Amy, show me what to do and never make me speak to someone about it, because I don't know how to explain this. Like, that was literally my sentences I used to say to her before. There's nothing that you need to know other than the facts, really. And I don't think even Amy will explain her story, but I don't think she even got all the facts really before she started. She was just excited and jumped in. I would say that if there's a part of you that's like, oh, like I'm excited, but I don't know. You don't need to know everything to start. Like, you will learn this stuff as you go, and as your business starts to grow off into all different directions, you'll see how that makes sense, and that makes sense, and that makes sense. The confidence side of things is something that I cannot, like, if anybody on this call is thinking like, I would love to do this, but I'm just not confident enough, then please ask Sophie or Imogen, whoever you're connected up with, to arrange a call with just me and them, or me and one of them afterwards, because the confidence side of thing, I can absolutely resonate, like it just resonates so highly with me, because when I was at school, I was the very, very, very shy one, the very painfully shy one. When I was in university, I did group presentations in front of my lecturer one-on-one and still managed to have a panic attack. That was how like painfully unconfident I was in my own abilities. I was not wanting to speak to someone face to face about anything, let alone something I didn't really understand. But the nicest thing is that you will always have someone to walk you through step by step by step, hand by hand by hand, like literally until you feel confident enough, until you've built the skills and the knowledge. And the confidence side of thing, I would say, is probably a little bit irrelevant as well, because it's more about having a bit of courage rather than having confidence. Confidence is built off the back of being a little bit brave, and once you see that you've done something, you're like, check me out, okay, now I can do this. And then you feel yourself almost like stacking another block on top of each one that you've already built upon, to the point where you didn't even realise how far you've come until you look back. I look at it in Sophie and in Imogen already, like a couple of weeks down the line, and like their confidence already is soaring. Yeah, so if anybody is thinking that the confidence thing is the one thing holding them back, there is so many examples of people that I could give you who have made it to the top of this company who were so painfully unconfident in their own abilities beforehand. But that's the most beautiful part about this. You're literally scooped in, you're encouraged, you're inspired continuously, you're around people who really want to like lift you up. And if nothing else, that's a really amazing transferable skill to take into other parts of your life. Like, do this for the personal growth side of things alone. If that's all that you want out of this is such an amazing investment for that alone. I'll pass back over to Sophie because I know that we want to be conscious of time.
Yeah, did you want to pass on to Imogen so she can talk to Amy? Yep. Thank you.
Okay, I'll just unmute you, Imogen. That's you.
Yeah. Please, can you unmute Amy as well? Thank you. Yeah, I'm going to pass on and interview Amy, but I'm going to let her tell her story rather than kind of like babble, because I know that I will. So I'll just pass over to Amy and then we'll get on with the questions.
Cool. Thank you so much. Hi guys. I've not met anybody on this call. I know that maybe a few of you have met Ruth via social media or that before, but it's nice to meet you all and put some faces to names. And yeah, I'm very excited to be on this call, just to share a bit about my journey and hopefully answer some questions that you have about this business and how it might be a perfect fit for you. So for me, a bit of my background, I started my Arbonne business on my 18th birthday. At the time, I'd just finished high school. I was planning going to university after summer. And for me, I'd watched my big sister building this Arbonne business for a couple of years. And if I'm very honest, like Ruth said, I didn't really know the ins and outs of it. Like, I couldn't have told you how the business worked or anything like that, but I could just, as a sister, I was watching from the outside and I remember being like, she is loving what she's doing. Like, she was working with her best friends. She was earning a great income in part-time hours. And I just remember being like, I want a part of what she has. So if that was such a good question, like if you're not super confident and things like that will come with the business. Like when you start to like jump in and learn it as you go, like that, don't worry about that, because I was 18, I had no clue what I was doing when I started. But I just knew that this was something I wanted to be part of. Like I could see where it was going. And obviously when you get to the third level, you get a white Mercedes. I also just didn't want my sister being the only person that had a white Mercedes in our family. And I was like, I missed a trick here. So I really started for those reasons. But I jumped in, and for me the biggest thing in my life is sport. I'm a Team GB Scotland national team athlete for karate, so everything I've always done in my life is to kind of fund my passion with sport. Like I wouldn't have been able to be a full-time athlete right now if it wasn't for my Arbonne business, because any job I went into, I'd have had a boss that was like, you can't take this many holidays, because I'm away, probably Ruth will vouch for this, I'm away like half of every month competing in training camps and things like that. So I would have had to have a boss that would have told me I couldn't go away as much. I would have had to really struggle to probably make an income from it and everything like that, plus training on top of that. So for me, I started to build my Arbonne business when I was 18 years old all through my university degree. So for the 4 years I was doing sports science at Strathclyde University, and I literally just fit my business alongside that. So I was training in the mornings, I'd go to university, and in the kind of nooks and crannies I would just build my business alongside that. Like I maybe cut out an hour of Netflix because I used to watch like 4 seasons or 4 episodes a night. Like I'd maybe watch 3, and you could just cut little parts of your time out to building this business. And the great thing about it is it fits alongside your schedule. Like, and for me that was the biggest thing. Like looking at my life now, 7 years on from when I started, my life looks very different now to what it could look like. Like I am a full-time athlete. I love my sport karate, but it's not a very well-paid sport, so it's a very expensive hobby that I have. So my Arbonne business literally funds my passion now. So I get to travel the world. I never have to ask a boss for permission, and it's all because my Arbonne business allows me to have those choices. And I don't know what you guys are thinking, like if you're at university or if you have a job right now, but the biggest thing that when I was 18, I remember being like, I just want to have choices. Like I want to be able to go on holidays with my friend when I want. I want to be able to go to a 10 o'clock gym class rather than a 7 a.m. one before work. Like all of those things were just the choices that I thought this business could give me. And whatever it is for you, it might be different things, or it might just be like a fund so you've got a backup plan. Whereas in situations like this where we can't physically work and the income can't come in, you've got a great plan B there. So yeah, hopefully it's something that you're looking at as a great plan B or a plan A for you, whatever it is.
Cool. Okay, so I'm going to ask you 4 questions, so I hope that's okay.
Yes.
How do you feel Arbonne has benefited you during this isolation period?
Oh, good question. Like massively. I don't think people, like, I don't even know if I took my business like for granted a little bit until this happened, and I was like, wow, like I'm so grateful that I've got a business that is fully online, it's fully functional right now. Like there's not a lot of people out there that have like traditional businesses. They're all, even my dad has a karate business and we're having to do like virtual karate lessons to keep it running, or else we wouldn't be able to keep that afloat, because it just shows you like online businesses are where it's at. And also the fact that it's just fully like functional right now, they're health and wellness products that people are needing still. So people aren't able to go on their holidays, they aren't able to do the other things, but they're still washing, they're still using like makeup, skincare, nutrition products. Like we all want to feel good at home. So Arbonne just is still ticking over so well right now with the lockdown happening. And I'm just super grateful that right now I've got an income that I can be building. It's actually growing. Like we've had, last month was one of our biggest months, and this month we're going to have our biggest month ever. And like that is an amazing thing to be able to see, like when you're in this situation. So a lot can come out of this lockdown, I think. Like if, like I know that a lot of you are looking at Arbonne as a plan B, and honestly guys, like this is the perfect time to be looking at it, because it just gives you some security that you're in control of and not a boss or anybody else is in control of. Like SaaS, sometimes like even if you're relying on things like that can be taken away. So it's so nice to have a plan B that you're in control of, and it's totally up to you. So for me, it's been a massive thing having my Arbonne business right now.
Cool, thank you. How many hours did you roughly work a week when you first started up, like when you first started the business?
So I was obviously 18 years old. I just went into starting my university degree, so I was doing university training and I built my Arbonne business alongside it. So if I'm honest, probably about like 5 to 8, 9 hours a week realistically. I literally just built it like, you know, when you're at university and you have like a lecture in the morning at 10 a.m. and then you've got nothing till like 4 p.m. and you're kind of waiting about in the middle. Like I would maybe just meet someone for a coffee, share this business with them then. And then I'd maybe have, like Ruth was saying as well, like maybe a video call with someone in the evening, or a training call in the evening. So it was just maybe like a couple of like hour slots a week that I would build my business in, and it was just being really productive for the time that I had. I didn't have hours upon hours to build this business, so it was just thinking, if I spend 6 hours a week on my business rather than watching TV, then that'll build my business really strong. And it's just about being consistent with that. Like obviously right now we all have a lot of time in our hands, but when we go back to normality, like it's still, if you're able to build this business in 6 hour time slots a week, you'll have a phenomenal business.
Yeah, thank you. How do you deal with like people, and like what do you say to people when they're like skeptical about your business? Like, how do you like try to encourage them to not be?
Cool. That I would say, first of all, don't worry, because it's so normal. It's just because Arbonne's a very different concept. Like I'm sure everyone else here, like when I was growing up, my mum went to school, she done her higher, she went to university, she got a degree, she's now a teacher. Like that was just the pathway that they were always taught to do. So Arbonne's a very different concept. So it definitely took my mum even a long time to fully understand how it worked. So I would say people being skeptical is so normal. It's just because it's so new to them. And it's the same with us. Like when we start something new or we do something for the first time, we're a bit like, this is weird, because we're not used to doing it. But once you kind of, I would say once, like Ruth said this at the start, like once you fully hear the full presentation. Or if you've got like a parent that's a wee bit skeptical or anything like that, like I would just get them, if you want to do this, I get them to sit down and hear the full thing out and then ask all their questions. Like that's the best thing to do, because it's so normal. Like, don't worry, people are skeptical first, because that is a normal thing. But the best way to overcome it is just to let them actually, if you want to do this and you're passionate about it, saying it might not be for you, but please just listen to the full thing for me for 20 minutes. And then it lets them at least ask all their questions. It gets everything out of the way. And I would say that that's the best way to do it. And if you do that with someone and maybe they still don't understand it, or it's not for them, then that's okay. Maybe the business just isn't for them. But obviously for yourself, it's just good to make sure you've done the full presentation and let them hear it all, I would say.
Okay. How do you cope with like managing your Arbonne business and also being like a Team GB athlete? Because like that sounds like a lot of stress to then have like a business on top of it. It kind of like, I'm quite curious as to how you like weighed out your time with that.
Nice. That's a good question. When I ask myself sometimes as well. Yeah, it's funny because like when I look back, I started my Arbonne business to fund my sport. So the good thing with Arbonne is that when you're doing it consistently over time, you get to a point where like I have like Olympics trials and things coming up, and my Arbonne business takes a little bit of a backseat, and that's okay, because I made it that way. Like I do my Arbonne business to fund my sport, and it's exact same maybe for university. Like maybe you've got 2 weeks where it will be a lot more university than Arbonne, and that's okay, because if you're consistent enough the rest of the year or the rest of the time, your business will still be absolutely phenomenal. It'll still grow and grow and grow. Like most of the time when I'm out of the country for two weeks out of the month, we still have a phenomenal month, and it's not because I'm not there, because the good thing with your business is that you don't need to turn up to get paid. So sometimes I've maybe done the work, like we're going to have one of our biggest months this month, but it maybe was down to the work I'd done a year ago, and that's kind of like compounded over time. So I would just say that for me especially, the balance is just being able to focus on the right thing when it's good for me. Like when I have more time, I focus on my Arbonne business more. When I have to focus on karate, and when I'm in competition zone, and Ruth knows this as well, when I'm in competition mode, I'm not very Arbonne-y, but that's just my life. Like I have two very stressful things in my life. Not stressful, karate's stressful, but Arbonne's not. But I have two very like high level things in my life where I want to be the best in both, and definitely sometimes you can't be up there for everything in life. And it's the same with like, whether I don't know if anyone does sport in this call, or if you're at university, like there's always something that has to kind of give a little bit when you're focusing on two big things. So it's just nice. But the good thing with Arbonne is it's super flexible, and that's really the reason I started it, so that I could always have like a month if I need to go if I'm going to Olympics, then it'll be fully karate. And that's the great thing, my business will still be growing because I've been consistent enough with it over time. So yeah, does that answer your question?
Yeah, that was perfect, thank you. I'm gonna now pass on to Sophie, and she's gonna like sort you guys out with the ending.
Is that me? Perfect. Yeah, that was so good. Thank you guys. Thanks for coming on. Yeah, I just wanted to highlight like how amazing this is, and even my confidence over the last 2 weeks. I never thought I'd get on a call like this ever. Like ever. The first time I started this when I turned 18, me and Ruth were sat next to each other, and I was here like almost crying, like I can't do this. But seeing how simple it really can be, just shows that anyone can do it. And if anyone had any questions, just message us and we can hop back on a call like this if you wanted to. But thank you so much. Did any of you want to say anything, Ruth or Amy?
No, I'm all good. All good.
All good.
Thank you so much for asking us to come on. And like you said, Sophie, if anybody's got any questions that weren't covered in this, then just give us a shout, give the girls a shout, and we can jump on and have another wee chat at some point, even on a one-to-one basis or whatever. But all good.
Perfect. Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you.
Bye.